What a statement from Liverpool today at the Etihad, folks. When we talk about title-deciding moments, this 2-0 victory over Manchester City might just be one we look back on in May. The Reds have stretched their lead at the top to 11 points, and more importantly, they've done the double over City this season, something they've only managed twice before in Premier League history. Let's break down this tactical masterclass from Slot's men. The game plan was crystal clear from the opening whistle. Absorb pressure, stay compact, and strike with precision. And boy, did they execute it perfectly. That first goal, coming just 14 minutes in, was straight off the training ground. Mac Allister's corner delivery was whipped in with purpose. Soboslai's back heel flick was absolutely delicious. And there was Salah, doing what Salah does best, finding space where there shouldn't be any. You know what's fascinating about this Liverpool team? They're playing with this beautiful blend of efficiency and control that we haven't seen since their title-winning season. Their XG might have only been 0.71, but they scored twice. That's the mark of champions, making the most of limited opportunities. Speaking of Salah, let's take a moment to appreciate what we're witnessing here. He's now scored 241 goals for Liverpool, putting him level with Gordon Hodgson in the club's all-time scoring charts. That's third place, folks. Only Roger Hunt and Ian Rush are ahead of him. And here's a stat that'll blow your mind. He's got 16 away Premier League goals this season, matching the record set by Kevin Phillips and Harry Kane. The man is literally rewriting the history books every time he steps onto the pitch. But what really caught my eye was how Liverpool managed the game after going ahead. There was none of that high-octane, heavy metal football we've come to expect. Instead, they showed a different side to their game, a mature, controlled performance that frustrated City to no end. Guardiola's men had 68% possession in that first half, but what did they do with it? 8 shots, sure, but nothing that really troubled Alisson. I've got to mention that disallowed Marmoush goal around the half-hour mark. For a moment, it looked like City had found their way back into the game, but the offside flag saved Liverpool. And didn't they make the most of that let-off? 5 minutes later, Soboslai's making it 2-0, and the game's taking on a completely different complexion. Let me paint you a picture of that second goal because it perfectly encapsulates Liverpool's approach today. Alexander-Arnold spots Salah's run and delivers this perfectly weighted ball over the top. Now, the old Salah might have gone for goal himself, but instead he draws in both Gvardiol and Ake before laying it off to Soboslai. That's the kind of situational awareness that separates good players from great ones. You know what's really stood out to me in this match? The evolution of Liverpool's tactical setup under Slot. We're seeing a team that's comfortable playing multiple ways within the same game. Take that first half. They pressed when they needed to, but they weren't afraid to sit back and let City have the ball in non-threatening areas. It's a far cry from the all-out pressing style we've been used to seeing at Anfield. Let's talk about Manchester City's struggles today, because this was not the City we've come to expect. The midfield looked disjointed, and the attack never really clicked into gear. Doku, who's been electric for them recently, couldn't find his rhythm against Alexander-Arnold. And Marmoush, despite his energy and movement, struggled to link up effectively with Foden and the wide players. I've got to say, the absence of certain players really showed for City today. You could see they were missing that Rodri-like figure in midfield, someone to dictate the tempo and control the spaces. Guardiola's selection of such a young starting lineup, averaging just 25 years and 68 days, matching their youngest ever Premier League Gex-Wine under him, well, it showed in moments where experience might have made the difference. The defensive structure from Liverpool deserves its own spotlight here. Van Dijk was absolutely immense, especially in those moments when City did manage to get in behind. There was this one sequence in the second half where he had to deal with Marmoush's run. The timing of his intervention was absolutely perfect. It's these little moments that don't make the highlight reels, but are absolutely crucial in games of this magnitude. And how about Alisson? He might not have had many spectacular saves to make, but his positioning and command of the area were spot on. That save from Doku's effort in the 72nd minute, sure-handed, no drama, Just exactly what you want from your goalkeeper in these big games. The interesting thing about this match is how it showcases the different approaches to building attacks. City, with all their possession, often looked like they were trying to play through a maze. Meanwhile, Liverpool's transitions were like arrows, direct, purposeful, and deadly. Salah's involvement in both goals perfectly illustrates this. He's not just a scorer anymore. He's evolved into this complete forward who can create just as well as he can finish. What really caught my attention was Liverpool's game management after the break. We've seen them have some nervy moments recently. Think about those games against Everton and Wolves. But today, they controlled that second half like seasoned champions. Even when City tried to up the tempo, Liverpool never looked rattled. They kept their shape, stayed disciplined, and picked their moments to counter. The substitutions tell an interesting story about how both managers read this game. Slot's changes were all about game management, bringing on Tsimikas and Endo around the 74th minute, perfect timing to inject some fresh legs into those defensive positions. But what really caught my eye was how he handled Salah's substitution in the 91st minute. Even with the game basically won, Salah wanted to stay on. That's the kind of hunger that's driving this Liverpool team right now. Guardiola's changes, though. That's where things get interesting. Bringing on McAtee for De Bruyne in the 66th minute was a roll of the dice that didn't quite pay off. It felt like City were searching for answers but couldn't quite find the right question to ask. The introduction of Gundogan later on was probably too late to make any real impact on the game. Let's talk about that disallowed Jones goal for a moment, because it really epitomizes how fine the margins are at this level. The build-up was absolutely beautiful. Gravenberch's through ball, Soboslai's run, the timing of Jones's arrival in the box, everything except that fractional offside. In another universe, that's 3-0, and we're talking about one of the most comprehensive away performances we've seen at the Etihad. The stats tell us something fascinating about Liverpool's mentality in these big games. They've now won their last 54 Premier League matches when leading by 2 or more goals at halftime. The last time they lost from that position, December 2016 against Bournemouth. That's not just consistency, that's championship DNA. I've got to mention Soboslai's performance today because it often gets overshadowed by Salah's headlines. His movement for both goals was exceptional. For the first, that backheel assist showed such awareness and technique. And his finish for the second? That's a player who's growing in confidence with every game. He's becoming exactly the kind of midfielder Liverpool needed, someone who can both create and finish chances. The defensive partnership of Van Dijk and Konate deserves special mention. They dealt with everything City threw at them, particularly in those early exchanges when City were trying to establish their rhythm. There was this moment in the 49th minute when Marmoush tried to get between them. The way they squeezed the space and forced him wide was textbook defending. What's really striking about this Liverpool team is how they've managed to maintain their unbeaten run, now stretching to 23 Premier League matches. But it's not just about being unbeaten. It's about how they're doing it. They're scoring multiple goals in these Sunday games. They're controlling matches. And most importantly, they're showing different ways to win. Today, it was about efficiency and control. Other days, it's about overwhelming the opposition with intensity. You know what really defines the magnitude of this win? The fact that Manchester City hadn't been kept goalless in the Premier League since they last played Liverpool in December. That's 12 games of consistent scoring broken by the same opponent. That's not coincidence. That's a team that knows exactly how to nullify one of the most potent attacks in world football. Let's talk about some of these individual achievements, because they're quite remarkable. Robertson making his 300th Premier League appearance, though he probably would have loved to mark it with that volley he sent over the bar. Then there's Salah's numbers this season. 25 goals already, sitting 6 clear of Haaland in the scoring charts. And when you consider he's got 11 Premier League matches this season, with both a goal and an assist, you realize we're watching someone operating at an absolutely extraordinary level. The tactical adjustments as the game wore on were fascinating. Liverpool's decision to shut up shop relatively early might have seemed risky, but it worked perfectly. Their low XG total of 0.71, despite scoring twice, tells you everything about their clinical edge today. Compare that to City's 0.63, and you see a game where quality in the final third made all the difference. That space between City's midfield and defense, that's where this game was won and lost. Liverpool exploited it brilliantly for both goals, while at the other end, City couldn't find a way to create those same pockets of space. Guardiola's team often looked like they were playing in front of Liverpool rather than through them. And that's a credit to how well Slot had organized his team. The implications for the title race are massive here. Liverpool with an 11-point cushion at the top, that's the kind of lead that makes you start believing. But perhaps more importantly, they've shown they can go to the Etihad and not just win, but control the game. That's going to send shockwaves through the league. Looking ahead, Liverpool's got Newcastle on Wednesday, while City's facing Spurs. Those are both tricky fixtures, but after today, you've got to fancy Liverpool to maintain this momentum. They're playing with a confidence and assurance that suggests they believe this could be their year. What we've witnessed today isn't just a win, it's a statement of intent. Liverpool haven't just beaten Manchester City. They've outthought them, outfought them, and ultimately outplayed them. In a season where many questioned whether Liverpool could really challenge for the title, they've just given us their most emphatic answer yet. This has been Across the Pitch, over and out.